the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Settled are they there, and how deep can they go with that position? So I think those are the two biggest position groups, but for different reasons for me that I'm intrigued by as summer gets kicked off here.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't, because I'm really curious about the safety spots, because I mean, I think y'all talked about it this week about Will Brooks, and Tim Banks has talked a lot about Will Brooks, the GQ. We'll see how it goes over the next few months here, because I think Will Brooks, I mean, in your estimation, because it's Jakobe Thomas, because it's Will Brooks, because it's John Slaughter, we'll see where he factors into after this summer. Do you think it's necessarily a cause for concern that spot hasn't been solidified, or do you think it's actually a testament that, hey, they have a couple different guys that can go, and any of those three will be able to handle this job, and that this staff deserves the benefit of the doubt on the back end there?
Yeah, to me right now, it's Jakobe Thomas and it's Will Brooks, and I think the question becomes: does Jakobe Thomas in fall camp completely earn Tim Banks' trust as the safeties coach? Because we've seen through 3 years that Tim Banks is about the guy. I've got to have a guy back there that I know is not going to screw it up, and that's why you saw Jalen McCullough play 96% of the snaps, that Tim Banks has, led since he's been the defensive coordinator at Tennessee. And so I think the question becomes, where is Tim Banks' trust factor with Jakobe Thomas, with John Slaughter, versus where it is with Will Brooks? He's made it very clear how comfortable he is and how much trust he has in Will Brooks back there. But Jakobe Thomas has played a lot of football. I mean, a lot of football. He's an experienced guy. I thought he had a good spring. We'll see where that is at when you come out of spring. And certainly when you highlight the secondary, the safety spot is the big question, right? Because you got a pretty good idea where they're going to be, at the corners, and kind of what that looks like. At the star position, I think that's Jordan Thomas to start there, and then we'll see how much they work Boo Carter in and how quick that happens at the star spot. But the question is going to be the safety position, because that's a wholesale change there.
Yeah.
I mean, Wesley Walker's gone, Jalen McCullough's gone. Andre Turntime's really the only guy that's got any experience other than Will Brooks coming back. So that one's a question mark, because you're doing a complete turnover. Whereas this time next year, we're going to be talking about a complete turnover, or a big turnover on the offensive line, right?
Yeah.
Because Cooper's going to be gone, and Spraggins is going to be gone, and John Campbell's going to be gone. Dane Davis is going to be gone. So what does that look like on your offensive line? And then, defensively, because they rotate so many bodies up front on the defensive line, yes, they're going to lose a lot of guys, but hey, Dalvin Hobbs is going to be a big part of everything a year from now, major part. They think Nathan Robinson's going to be a good player. So there's bodies there that are going to play this year to get some experience, because Rodney's going to play a dozen guys, 13 guys, So I don't know that there's going to be wholesale changes like we're seeing in the secondary. I mean, this is a completely revamped secondary. Now, Ricky Gibson, you feel good about that. You brought in McCoy to be your other starter at defense at corner, so you feel like you know who the corners are. But that safety spot's going to be pretty fascinating to watch.
Yeah, if they're healthy, I mean, they don't rotate. Like, you look at the snap count and stuff like that. I mean, part of the reason.
Not at safety, they don't. Now, William Martinez rotated. He played 3 or 4 corners last year. He rotated much more, but Tim Banks doesn't rotate back there.
No, and that means, like, if it's Brooks right out of the gate, it's going to be a lot of Brooks from then on. And I mean, like, Brooks was solid. You look at the PFF numbers. What did you see, like, down the stretch? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like, how much of it is just that, like, I think what's his name, Wesley Wright or William Wright? I always get it confused.
William Wright.
William Wright. Like, they see former walk-on, and then everyone's fans just go to, why is he in the game, this, that, and the other. But it's like, Will Brooks seems he was fine. Like, Will Brooks, I don't think was. I think it's more of like, well, why don't we have someone who is a higher blue chipper back there? Why haven't we developed someone to be in that spot so that you don't have to go there? But also, that's college football. Sometimes these kind of players pop, and like Will Brooks, like, what did you see? What's actually real about him in the back end?
Well, I mean, I think he was in the right position. I think the question becomes and I think this is the question for the entire safety position and not just Will Brooks, is it's got to be, is it going to be about not making a mistake or is it going to be about making a play?
Hmm.
And how many plays are you making? Now, Jalen McCullough had his best year according to PFF, but most Vol fans will tell you, well, how many plays did he make? Right?
Yeah.
Like how many do you go, wow, that was a really good football play at the safety spot? And I'm not saying all of them have to be Deion Grant in 98 against Florida where you snare a one-handed
Yeah.
ball to save a touchdown, but how many plays did you make? And what the thing we don't really know is we don't know the expectation of what they're asking. I don't know the expectation of what they're asking the safeties to do all the time.
Mm.
So we'll see. I mean, clearly Will Brooks was not out of position. He wasn't busting. He wasn't giving up big plays, which is why Tim Banks has got a lot of trust in him. And it's interesting because it didn't feel like they had a whole lot of trust in Andre Turrentine. And Turrentine had to play in the bowl game, and he had to play down the stretch this season when Wesley Walker was banged up. And once he got in the game, I thought Andre Turrentine played pretty well. I thought he was
He had a
okay.
pick, yeah.
I mean, the Iowa game, you kind of go, it's Iowa's offense. We'll
Yeah.
see. But even before then, when he was playing, it's like, well, he's not awful.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's a great practice player or wasn't a great practice player. I think he's gotten better because he sees the opportunity to play. And that's the challenge, is fans see stars. They see recruiting stars, so they think automatically somebody's playing. The flip side of coaches see practice, and nobody can be a gamer. Well, I've seen some guys who weren't very good practice players who are pretty good game day football players. So that you can be a little bit of a gamer, even though coaches don't want to acknowledge that because it belittles what they're doing, right? Like, and so I think there's a balance for both sides a little bit. Not every 5-star is going to be a first-round draft pick. And there are going to be times where a no-star or a 3-star or a 2-star guy factors. I mean, really factors.
I mean, Stetson Bennett just won 2 titles for Georgia. Yeah, I mean,
that's going to happen. The flip side is there's also going to be guys who aren't great practice players, but when the lights come on, they're pretty doggone good football players. So coaches have to view that way. Fans have to view their side of it, like, not just because you had more stars by your name doesn't mean you're automatically better than the guy who had fewer stars by their name. So both of them, I think, get a little caught up in those two things, and it makes for some interesting fodder and some certainly interesting personnel decisions on who's going to play and who's not going to play.
Who's the best all-time? We don't say bad, but maybe the biggest disparity between how they practice versus how they played for Tennessee football. Who's the best example of that you've heard?
Wow, that's a great question.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.